call John O'Naylor.
The Chair. It's been a really interesting debate as we've got into part two. I was actually quite amazed that the members opposite were wanting to shut down any mention of the Labor Party policy. I thought they would have been really keen for their policy to be out there in the public domain. But anyway, I won't go there because I know that for whatever reason they don't want their policy out there. I do just want to get into the supplementary order paper that's been put forward with a clause 10A, which talks about there needing to be a 50% return of valid votes. And Mr. Chair, sorry, I have a bit of an issue with that. And I think the previous speaker talked a little bit about local government elections. Now, if you were going to go with the 50% rule, almost every council in New Zealand would be invalid. Now, I know some people don't particularly like local government. I'm saying that I know a lot of people don't necessarily like local government and they might want to get rid of local government, but what you're saying is in fact that no council in New Zealand would be valid unless 50% of the population turn out to vote. Now, I was fortunate enough that I did get over 50% of the votes cast when I was in local government, and so that was an important part. So I think this hang-up with a specific number is quite dangerous territory for us to get into. It would be setting a constitutional precedent, because at the moment, in none of our elections, whether it be local government, central government, whatever elections are held in New Zealand, we don't have this minimum threshold for participation. And so I think if we were to put something like this in place, it is changing something quite significant. So what we're saying is not that everybody must participate. We actually don't have compulsory participation in voting in New Zealand. If we want to change the rules and make things compulsory, well, we can go into that debate another time. But at the moment, we don't have that. So we can't compel people to vote. And so if people choose not to participate, that is their right. That is a vote that people can choose to make, is not to participate. Now, there's been a little bit of concern, I think, that people have said if people don't participate in the first vote because they just want to vote no, that they will be excluded from participating. Well, there will be a second referendum and they can participate at that point. But my advice to those people is absolutely vote in the first referendum, because if by some, the way things turn out, if the way things turn out is that there is a vote for change in the second referendum, I would advise anybody who's got a view about any of the alternatives to actually make that view known. Now, Mr. O'Rourke, when he was talking, said that there's a presumption in the first referendum that there will be a change, because I think the wording says if the New Zealand flag is changed, which one would you prefer? Now, the last time I ever heard anyone use the word if, there was no presumption that it would occur. So, if the New Zealand flag is changed, which one would you prefer? Doesn't exclude anybody. It isn't presumptive that it will change. It is simply saying, if in the second referendum there is a vote for change, which one of these four would you prefer? It's pretty simple, it's pretty clear, it's pretty concise. Now here we go. In clause 10, we're talking about the subject of referendums. We've got these two referendums in sequence. And I know I mentioned this when we discussed the last part, but it seems that people still aren't that clear on how it is that people might be excluded. Everybody will get a vote. Everyone will get a vote in both referendums. And in the second one, anyone who wants to reject it will simply be able to reject it. And anyone who just wants to change for whatever reason can vote for it. But if you have a yes-no vote first, you will exclude those people who are open to the idea of change, but it will depend on whether or not they, it will depend on whether or not what the option is. And so, Mr. Chair, that's the important reason. That's why we do two referendums. That's why we do them in this order, so that it includes everybody, not just those people who've already made up their mind about what they think about the flag. Mr. Chair, I just want to touch on a few other of the clauses as we go through. I've mentioned the need for us to have the alternatives in there. I've mentioned that it is, in fact, simply a very clear choice.
Dr.